fun.
So I'll send everything that you have.
All right, well, it is 7 o'clock, so we'll get the call meeting to order. I'm going to postpone the approval of the minutes. Got a couple of them to do. We'll do those afterwards, and we'll move right on to new business. And want the record to show that we have 4 regular members and 2 alternates here, and I'll just ask that the board members just state your name, so for the record, because I don't want to mispronounce.
Gary Spalding.
Scott Herrick.
Raina Johnson, alternate.
And
Webb
Webb
Stout.
Stout.
Webb Stout.
Okay,
Lisa Carlson.
and Jim Week. All right. So with that out of the way, yes, Kel?
Webb needs to say why he has to be on Zoom.
Oh, okay. Webb, did you hear that? You need to
I
state.
did, yes. I am on Zoom.
But why? You need to state why, I guess.
It
I've
just
got
say-
the summer off and I'm not in town.
Fair enough. I think that's meet you on East Cal.
Yes.
All right. So with that, we'll start with the new business, which is a hearing. Let's see, it is case number 2026-3, special exception. And let's see, the application involves tax map 106, lot 4, located in the town center. And it is located in the Center Historic District. Proposed use states to the property houses the Canterbury Country Store. Also it will be to allow the use as a restaurant. The application references Article 5.3, Section C of the Table of Uses. So if whoever's representing the LLC.
That would be me, since I signed off on the thing.
All right, so if you,
And conducted hearing.
sorry,
Conducted hearing.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, so
I'm Jim Moyer. I live on Morrill Road. I'm a member of the Canterbury Community Market LLC. I happen to be a lawyer, so I do lawyer stuff. Not that I do this kind of law, so I know as much as, a lot less than all of you. In any event, I did file.
Before we start that, just in terms of the process and what you may or not know, but I need to say for the record, you'll explain what you're interested in doing to the board. Then we'll go to people who are in support, those opposed. Come back to you for any additional comments that you might have at that point. Once again, go around to those in favor and those opposed. Finally back to you for any last comments, and then at that point we close the hearing and the board will deliberate.
Very good.
So,
And if you could speak up loudly.
I will speak loudly.
yeah, do we want to move the mic closer?
I can,
It's my
Oh,
mic.
your mic, okay.
for her mic, okay, I can speak
All right,
loudly.
Webb, can you hear everything that's going on, Webb?
I can hear fine, yes, thanks.
Great.
All right.
Okay, most of what I have to say is actually in the application itself. I added a sort of an introductory part to the application, which really is the part which talks about a general request for the special exception. We're talking about the community market. Community market owns the building, which is the store and post office, and there's an apartment in. Everyone knows the store. It's been run by many people over the years that I've been here. But most of the Hallas were the ones that I want to start with. Tony and Joe ran the store as a store for the most part. They did offer sandwiches, they offered, pre-made items, this kind of thing, but it was primarily the store in town. Over the years, with many conversations with Tony and Joe, particularly when we came to the annual meeting of the LLC, when Joe would come down and Tony would come down to make their presentation, they'd always talk about how horrible business is, that you can't make it as a store. And so for a long time, we were trying to work out, what are we going to do? What's going to be the succession plan? Is it even viable? That's when the Balshaws came in, and they changed the use of the store a little bit. They still had the store, but they also expanded into some items made on the store, on the premises, because we put in a commercial kitchen. But it's mostly pre-made things that you could buy. I'm sure if you were in the store, you saw that. They didn't have a menu per se. You couldn't go in and order it, except for pizza night where you could order your pizza. In any event, the move was more towards a restaurant than a store at that point. It was still both. Balshaw's, of course, stopped operating the store in January, and so we were looking for somebody to take over. We now have the Sanchez's who are supposed to open on Monday. Their license came through today, which is great, the food service license. But we are moving more towards a restaurant, so we thought it would be appropriate to come to the zoning board to basically acknowledge that. Looking at the zoning regulations, it's in the historic district, and there's really fairly limited in what you can do in the historic district. Looking, for example, as a store is not allowed. It must be grandfathered in because that's what it's been. You could have a store with gas pumps, but you can't have a store. Also, it allows a restaurant. There's no definition of a restaurant, but we're assuming that if you're calling it a cafe and you're serving food like that, even though it's not a sit down with wait service, this kind of thing, figure the better part of valor really is to come here, and then let's try to formalize this. Going through the requirements for the exception, I think I answered each of them, but really we're talking about not much change for the center. It's not going to change traffic, it's not going to change noxious uses, nothing new is going to be there, I don't think. And so I addressed each one of those, and I'm happy to address any of those if you have any questions about it. I don't think there's, again, we're not talking about a big change. I don't expect it ever to be turned into a fancy gourmet restaurant with wait service and things like that. Be nice if it could, but don't think the septic would allow that. So in any event, they're limited to basically paper service, no fried food, this kind of thing, which I know is not your issue here, but I think with the limitations of the septic, the limitations of the town, this is about the best we're going to get. My concern, of course, is that in the alternative, if in fact we don't get the special exception and there's action taken, the place is going to be vacant. Our LLC is founded on the founding principle has been since day one to keep this place alive and vibrant to the degree we can. It's been challenging, it really has, and this group, most of the LLC members are here. It is challenging and trying to keep it going. We do everything we can to support the store owner, keep the post office, keep the apartment occupied. But this, I think, seems to be our best alternative right now. So for this reason, I'm seeking a special exception on behalf of the Community Market LLC.
Okay. Questions from board members?
And I have a few, some you've already answered. How many seats are gonna be in the restaurant?
We are going to be, we are not, I'm not being licensed, we just own the building, but the tenants are going to be licensed, have been licensed, I think as of today, for 18 seats.
And I think earlier you said there'd be no wait staff.
No wait staff.
And then how many total staff?
There's the two store owners, Kayla and Manny, and at this point, they're going to have their teenage children work this. So I think they're talking 4 at this point.
And then paper service, you said, right?
Right.
And that includes all utensils? There's no washableware.
No washablewear, I don't think.
And then in the application, it says sandwiches, breakfast type items.
Right.
Is there gonna be any dinner, supper service?
I don't think they plan to be open beyond the time the post office closes.
Which I don't know, what time is that?
4:30?
4:30?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock? I'm sorry. 5 o'clock. Again, the thing is right now is that I'm sort of speaking for them because I have a good idea what they're doing, but they're coming into this as a work in progress for them.
Yeah.
So I'm basically giving you what I know to the best of our ability and the best of their ability.
And whatever, we hear tonight, in this hearing that, gets entered in, that's what would be, the approval is gonna be based on. So if there's some change to that, then you need to come back.
Right.
And then on the store, it said no plans to end the store function. How much of the of the buildings will be converted to sit-down seating versus dry goods for the store.
Well, again, they're working on this. They are going to change to having seating down in what was the main store area and have seating up in what's the feedlot up there. They are going to have limited amount of grocery items. It's going to be the milk, the eggs. They're working with, I think, other vendors around here, but I really don't know the specific of it, but I think we can assume it's going to be scaled back.
So the questions I'm asking you all relate to the septic system.
Right.
This is, even though they've got their food service license, and I completely understand where you in the Market LLC is coming from, that you don't think it's a big change of use. It is a change of use for the septic system, which does require permitting to do it. Because your flows exceed what you've been permitted before is going from a dry goods store. In the last septic application for the store said limited transient type food service. And I think
Paper
up to
service, yeah.
7 seats. So now you're going to 18, which under the state flows puts that at 360 gallons, which exceeds what's already permitted for.
We are actually we've just actually this morning, we're signing with the select board, we just signed off on a revised use agreement for the septic system. And all of the water usage in the 3 entities, which are the town offices, the church and the parish house, and then us, the LLC, it's all, the water usage is all metered.
Yep.
So while the state may say, for example, you need for an apartment X number of gallons per day usage, that's if you're not metered. And we know from the metering exactly how much is being used. So the usage of Jane and Dave, the actual usage is going to be pretty much identical. There's nothing added on top.
So the apartment can't use water usage under the state rule, under the ENV rules, because the only time you can use meter flow for the apartment is if it's for a multi-use residential property with 12 bedrooms or more. If it's under 12 bedrooms, you have to use the state flow, and I believe it's a 2-bedroom apartment,
Yes, 300 gallons.
so 300 gallons a day. So you can't use your metered flow for that.
Well, it's funny, because I actually sort of disagree with you on that, because we had to go through this
Yeah.
in a lot of detail recently, Kevin Bragg and I primarily.
Yeah.
And the entire part where it talks about daily flow per use, it starts with a caveat, and right in the beginning saying, if it's not metered. If it's metered, then this doesn't apply. And we've had so far no complaints about that. But again, I don't have this in front of me.
So the rules changed this past year for septic systems. And under the metered flow, so metered flow readings, as you know, alternative to the book values for shared ISDS multi-residential units with a combined total of more than 12 bedrooms or for commercial structures. So you could use meter reading for the store, but you can't take it away from the apartment.
Okay.
I understand what you want to do, but we also have to make sure it meets all, not only the town, but the state regulations too. So when I looked at what, and quickly going through the 18 seats would be 360 gallons a day. The number of staff would be 4, that's another 80 gallons a day.
Mm.
In the meter readings, you have to have a year's worth of meter readings now, and there's a multiplier of 3 because it's commercial. So where I'm going with this is, I don't disagree with what you want to do, and I think it's a great idea. But if we move forward and approve this, there has to meet the state requirements for subsurface. How you get there is entirely up to you folks and whoever you're using on the septic design. But right now, based on these flow figures, it doesn't meet the subsurface disposal rules. And we need to address that.
I haven't seen the change in the regs, I just pulled it offline, so I assume they are up to date with the states.
Oh, yeah.
But maybe it's an assumption on my part, I don't know.
So those, if anyone else has any other questions, go ahead.
No, I mean, does anybody else have any? Yeah, I think, we could conditionally approve, I mean, it's the purview of the DES to.
I understand that. I'm just pointing,
I
I
don't wanna
want
get
to
into
point
this,
out that this isn't just a simple change of, it's not a change of use, which is an equal change of use
Mhm.
from what was a store originally approved to then it moved into the limited food service, now to a restaurant. Restaurant, as we all know, is a big open category and anything can happen once it's approved.
Right.
So we have to think of that as well. The problem is for me is that the septic system under the current rules that we just changed is the septic system, the septic tank is undersized for the use based on the current rule. So when I talk about the current rules, there's nothing that prevents you folks from putting an application for a change of use and asking for waivers for any of these items that may be under the state requirement. It's all permitted. Anything in the ENV 1000 rules can be waived if you can show that you have a reason for requesting a waiver. So that's something as a board member that I'm gonna be concerned with.
Yeah, I think, we're probably getting too much into discussion, but we could conditionally approve, or we could, extend this out, not make a ruling tonight and have an extension. But I think, let's get too much into discussion at this point and make sure we get through all of it.
And then the last item I have on that is under the land use rules in town, we say that for any eatery, you need to have parking spaces, one parking space for every 4 seats. So the other question is, looking at the site plan or the plan that's on record, you don't have the store doesn't have enough parking on its own property. And is there an easement or any type of agreement with the church property to use that's written? Because again, if we approve it as a restaurant, anyone else that uses it is gonna have the assumption they can use the parking lot. So is there any type of agreement between the store and the church for that?
So I'm not aware.
Kevin, identify yourself.
I'm sorry, Kevin Bryan, property manager, board member of the LLC. I am not aware of any site plan that was ever done that included parking spaces. I think this thing goes far enough back that I've never found anything to that.
Yeah.
So I don't know where the number of spaces is currently. I know that there are 3 out front, and we have never delineated the entire property because we could have what is generally considered public parking is literally on our private property.
Right.
And because it's not striped, because it's just never been done, it's just kind of an assumption that you could probably, in my estimation, and we are in conversation with the church because there is a larger issue with parking with all of the events going on in town. The church having a much larger portion of that asphalt out there as private property. So there needs to be a discussion about the whole parking space allotment.
Right.
That's not been done fully yet. But if you consider the space, on a 10 by 20 foot parking space, you could get 3 across the front, you could get 2 diagonal on this curbing, and then up against the town green, you can get 3.
Yeah.
So, on a good day, if people park.
But looking at the plans that were on record for the prior septic rules, most of what you're describing is not on the market's property.
No, that's on market property.
All right.
Do we have a plot plan? Sorry, I didn't bring one, but. Cause there's an iron pin out in the middle of the asphalt there.
Yeah.
So, the property line runs from behind the building roughly 5 feet off the west side of the building,
Yeah.
out to that iron pin. And then basically is about 12 inches or so off the curbing all the way to Hackleboro Road.
Yeah.
So all of that space could be considered our parking. Is that fair?
I'm assuming what you're telling me is where the property line is, without
Yeah.
seeing a site plan.
Right.
Which,
Well, that's
which
what I'm
is part
saying
of the,
is,
which is, as you know, by filling out the application, submitting a site plan is part of the requirement for a special exception. And I didn't see that in the application
I wasn't
unless there
aware
was
it
one.
part of site plan. Well, we can get you a site plan for sure. Yeah, I wasn't aware that was a part of the requirement for a special exception. So if we were to figure out the number of spaces that are literally on the LLC property, and then times four seats per space, that's one limitation. And then you've got the septic issue, like you said. Now, what we were operating under, which appeared to be the most up-to-date thing because it's on the state website, was the 20 gallons per seat for paper service.
Yes,
It also stated that if you did have metered readings for 6 months, you take the highest 6 months of usage. When we look at that, even if you allot 300 to just the apartment, which in fact it's actually a 1-bedroom is how we're marketing it now, which would be 225 gallons. The rest of it, of the 600 gallons, would be coming out of the store portion of our leach field, right? So what you're saying is the new regulation is that 600 minus 225, right?
Yeah.
375 gallons or whatever. We are currently using, because we have both units separately metered.
Yeah.
So we actually do know. So at the peak at the Balshaw has ever used was about 91, 92 gallons.
Yeah.
A day.
okay,
The apartment has never used more than 87 or 89.
Yeah.
And that was with 3 children, washer, everything going at its max for what that building. We don't anticipate that being the case moving forward. So we know meter wise that we're nowhere near taxing the system. So what we went on was allotting 225 to the apartment, and then the rest of it would be under the metered use. And if the metered use included the 5 seats, it was only coming out to about less than 100. We still had headroom there for another 10, 15 seats.
so, again, all these things that we're talking about, you can submit to the state and ask for waivers for it all. In order to get the approval from subsurface approval from subsurface, so the way the rules are written now is that you need a year's worth of meters reading, and there's a multiplier of 3, no longer 2, because you're now going from a dry goods store to a restaurant.
Okay, well, we've got a year, so we could do that.
So you'd have to use that for the year.
Yeah.
And then it has to be a similar use, so then whoever you're using to do your septic permitting for it, then needs to look at prorating it from 5 seats to 18 seats. But again, I'm not here to obstruct what you wanna do. I wanna make sure that if we move forward and grant any type of approval, conditional approval, that if someone else comes into the market and starts running it as a restaurant with sit-down seating and the number of seats, that we're protecting the town, meeting the zoning, and protecting the town's leach field.
So this is because we basically don't have a distinction between what we currently have as paper service, casual seating, and what would be considered a restaurant, which is basically food to order and table service. So there's,
A Dunkin' Donuts, it doesn't have table service, that's considered a restaurant, right? Our Roma Joe's is considered a
by
restaurant
state
by
standard,
state standard,
okay,
yeah,
but not by town,
but not by the
so we
town.
don't have any direction.
Right. So it's the state, it's the subsurface disposal that permitting is what the issue is.
Which is, to my understanding, the tenants have already acquired.
There's nothing online for it. I checked today.
Well, they just had their thing today, so I'm not sure.
If it was approved today by subsurface, it would have been on tonight's website.
Okay.
So question then, did they go to subsurface or did they get their food licensing approval today?
Well, in order to get food licensing, you have to have the
You have to,
septic approvals
you-
first in hand.
that's correct. You have to have a septic approval, but if you're going into food licensing and you're not updating it for what you're using, they're gonna go past, use the old approval number, which is probably what they did.
I don't know that for a fact,
So,
so we can check that out. Yeah. But I guess, you know, again, going towards the situation of what's on paper and what's in reality, we just signed an agreement with the town and the church so that we have an understanding of what is going into that leach field. And so this property is under a unique thing where if the next tenant came through and wanted to create a true sit-down restaurant, that we have another level of needing approval, that being the other owners of the leach field. So in essence, what we're kind of thinking is that if we are not taxing it, in fact, that, and we met what online appeared to be, and we got the blessing of the state already, we thought this hurdle was by,
Yeah.
because we kind of covered everything we could with the septic, knowing that that would be, you know, probably one of the larger issues.
If I can add on to that, the joint use agreement with the town and the church, there cannot be any change in the defined use, which in this case was specifically with a license of the restaurant with 18 seats, pay for service, cannot be changed without the approval of the town. Town has the veto authority of that. And this is dealing, of course, with the septic system.
Yeah.
That's why. So the town has full authority on that.
Yeah.
Can't be changed.
The state definition that we were going off of is either food was prepared to order or had table service.
Mhm.
Short of that, it's prepared prepackaged food and then transient seating.
the application says prepared food though.
Yeah, well, in going for the restaurant, we
Yeah.
want to make sure that if pizza night occurred again, which fits that rule, you're
Yeah.
ordering a pizza, they're
Yeah.
making it for you, that we would not be in violation of something.
So you bring up another point, is that there's a pizza night and earlier you said roughly the closing hours would be at 5 o'clock, so if that became a condition, then it would prevent having any type of food after 5 o'clock at night. So, and the other thing is whatever you folks want that ends up as a condition or part of the minutes, we wanna make sure that we don't squeeze you in so that you can't do what you wanna do after hours. So
Yeah.
that's an important thing here for you folks.
I personally don't know their plan. I know what their plan is to understand the community and the traffic flows and what people want. And does that mean they stay open till 6 or 7? Or does that mean they open at 6 or 7? So I don't believe that they have a firm commitment that it's this time and this time. So I would err on saying that maybe we should make sure that we've got, you know, enough time for them to make that decision. Obviously, we don't wanna go late enough that it becomes a nuisance to the neighborhood, but
Is that are they here this evening?
no.
No. Is that something you can reach out to them and find out what the latest hour would be? Cause I would hate to have us, if we move forward, set a time limit, then you'd have to come back to the board for a change again, because you wanna extend the hours.
Well, I guess one of my questions generally for the board would be then, is that how the board would operate? Saying we will approve this, but we'll only approve it if it's open for 6 hours per day or 8 hours per day. Does that have to be defined now?
We would need that to be described.
Okay.
You know, and so right now, we have 3 different issues apparently,
Mhm.
that, you know, the parking, the septic, and also, you know, some of the details of what they actually plan to do with the store
Mhm.
that haven't, you know, they're not available to us tonight. So I think it seems reasonable. I mean, we need to talk about this as a board, but
Well-
continuation of this may be necessary because we wouldn't wanna deny it at this point when really there's some things that might be simple enough to resolve. And so, and also at this point, there are too many variables, or I would think that there are too many variables, speaking for myself, in order to do it conditionally. Typically, if there's, something, one simple straightforward thing, we could conditionally approve, but here it seems like there are a number of things that need to be determined.
Right. So the building is permitted to operate as a store, selling prepackaged, pre-made items. If we were to operate under that until we get whatever information is needed to have a more solid yay nay on the restaurant portion of it. Is there something on the board? Is there more?
If you were here for that, you wouldn't even have to be here if that's how you were gonna continue on.
Right.
If there's no change in the use, then.
So that's what I'm saying is that if they operated under the existing condition of a store with packaged food service and the seating as it was, because it sounds like there's some things here that you folks wanna know more about.
The use goes
Before you
with
make
the
it
property,
good.
the use goes with the property, so if it's a continuation of the same use, it doesn't, they don't need to come.
Right.
You don't need to come before us, but it's when you change that use, so, yeah.
Yeah.
They could operate once they start tomorrow or whatever date that is.
And again, this property has a unique thing because of the leach field agreement that it may go with the property, but it doesn't go with the leach field. The town has every right, as does the church, to disagree with somebody else coming in to start a restaurant. And could nix it right then.
Yeah.
So,
But that's separate from this board.
right, I get that, but it's kind of one of those things that in a community way, it was kind of a backup. I mean, there was nothing in place before.
So the agreement is something that's completely new. There was no agreement when this was approved, when the leach field was
There-
built for all the buildings back in.
There was
in-
an agreement that had needed some work.
Right, so this is a revised agreement.
Revised.
Yeah.
It took, several months of talking about it to come up with the agreement that we have.
In the agreement, who is responsible for repairing or replacing the field if the restaurant's successful and grease gets up into the field?
It's all spelled out as to the proportionality of who's paying for what.
Right.
The town is,
If in fact the leach field is damaged by the use of the LLC or LLC tenant,
Yeah.
LLC is responsible.
Okay.
If the town does it, the town's responsible, church, that kind of thing. But as far as maintenance and that kind of stuff, there's a formula based upon use.
If you could hold for a second, Cal.
Would you like the agreement?
We have a copy of the
Oh.
agreement right here.
This is the original, so please don't take it.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, again, that agreement isn't, that doesn't fall under this board.
Yeah.
I don't know that we need to
Yeah.
review that.
Well, it doesn't fall under the board, but it may fall under a condition that because with the with the septic tank or grease trap, if it is undersized based on the current rule of maybe requiring that they be pumped out more frequently.
Right, but if it's relative to the rule, then it's, then it's DES.
Yeah.
And if they get approval, then
and I can tell
that's as far
you,
as we need to go with this board.
as a matter of fact, we pump annually. Is that right, Al?
Yes.
Every year, so I don't know how much more you could pump. Yeah, just to be on the safe side.
And
There is
what you're describing, there wouldn't be grease entering.
No,
the system.
we've been pretty upfront with them that if there's any grease that would enter the system, that they would have to install an external, in-house grease trap.
I believe you have one there now, that
No.
was approved under the last
There's
septic system, I think you have.
there's one in the tank.
I
There's a state
thought you had
approved,
1,000-gallon grease trap plus a 1250 septic
Yes,
tank there
right,
now.
but I'm talking about prior to inputting the system itself, we would require them to have a standalone grease collection.
I'm not following you now.
Yeah, basically you can get them in 5, 10, 20, 50 gallon units that basically filter the grease before it enters your exit pipe.
So,
But I can tell you, according to what they've told us, that they have no intention of doing anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just, the rest of the building doesn't lend itself, there's no fire suppression, there's no vent exhaust that would handle grease all the way down the line.
As Jim stated earlier, if any approval runs with the property. So this tenant, if they're not successful and you brought in another tenant that wanted to use the same number of seats, if it's approved, they could use and put more grease down the drain or whatever. Aside from the agreement they have for the town. That's-
So they have
And
an
that
agreement with us too.
Yeah, the agreement with the landlords and with the town though. I mean,
Yeah.
that was, this whole use agreement has limitations on what you can put into the system.
But I think, too, we can, that will be entered into the record as to what your use is going to be. And, whether or not there's a potential for grease to be entered into the system, and if you're planning on doing something beyond what DES requires, that could all be entered in, to the record here. And that would run with the approval, so. But I think we've got a couple things that have been identified. It seems like, and I guess I'd be interested in what other board members think, that, continuation makes the most sense, because we're not gonna have answers to some of these things like the parking and apparently the DES approval of the septic. If we feel like we wanna have that before we would make a rule on this. The people that does the board think that we want to go down the route of a continuation?
Well, I mean, personally, I think we have to. I think there's too many issues here to have a conditional approval. There's too many loose ends.
I agree. I had talked to them from my role on other committees and things in town to ask them if they would be willing to stay open later when we do town events such as Halloween, Christmas tree lighting, all the concerts, et cetera, and they said they would, but the primary ask of that was because it's the only bathroom in town, and now I feel like they should close that to customers only after this conversation, but yeah, I think we have to.
So I guess then to you two folks, how long do you think it will take you to address, people wanted a further question, are there any other
Are there
items that
any
the
other
board
things?
thinks might,
Right.
need to be addressed, and then we can get on to how long you think it will take to address and
Yeah.
figure out when we just meet again. So I guess to the board members, are there any other items, outstanding that you think need to be addressed before we could make a decision?
For me, no, it's to make sure they have an approved septic system. To protect the town, the LLC, and the user.
I have nothing additional.
Okay. So-
I agree with that. Oh, I'm sorry. I agree with that.
That's good work. Thank you.
I think that you also probably ought to maybe do a site plan just to roughly show the parking.
Yeah, we can
I
do
think
that.
that was a question. Yes,
We're-
yeah.
We're, like I said, working with the church to do that for many reasons. Lots of traffic issues that we're not personally comfortable with, not necessarily because it's store related. There are other events going on in town that create stuff, so
Yeah.
we want to create a safe, organized parking scheme, basically.
Right.
So we can figure that out.
Okay, good.
I would just add, are the hours that critical, or is there a
Yeah.
or operate under any restriction in that regard? So I'm not sure why there would be a difference.
For me, it's because if you close at 4, I don't have to worry about a supper meal, right? If you stay open until 8 or 9, then what's to say it's not a breakfast, lunch, and then a dinner service. So that's the reason for the hours.
I think too, just the operation of the business does have some effect on, the center. And so we try to define, what the hours are of operation for any business that we're approving, just so we understand how that might, affect the surrounding area.
Okay, so the fact that we're going for a different use is bringing that into play.
That's bringing it to
My understanding, there's nothing that says a store couldn't be open till 10 o'clock.
store, but now we're talking about an 18-seat
Right.
potentially restaurant,
Okay,
so that is a
Trying to
different.
make the distinction between the two.
I think that's why the concern about the parking as well, is that
Yeah.
it is different from the operation of the store.
Because in talking with them, again, they're trying to figure out the flow of customers and traffic and when it's profitable to be open and not be open. And should they find out that, most people don't arrive back in town until 6 o'clock and so stay open till 6:30 or 7, maybe something they want to do in 6 months. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're serving food. And so could there be, as a matter of fact, my understanding would be that they don't intend to do any food preparation after a certain time, shortly after 1 or 2 o'clock, because there isn't business there for that. So could that be something that could be?
So there's two things I would say that you should probably talk to them about, in that one is, say they get a handle on people coming in and out of the town, traffic flow, and they decide they wanna do pre-made meals for someone to stop in and take home and eat at their own home at 6 o'clock at night. They're still preparing a meal for that takeout, right? So that's another factor that has to go into anything you permit through the state. So I would ask them
But they,
if they want the ability to do, 20 pre-made meals to give to sell.
they have that already though.
No,
They don't have it, they don't have it under the original approval as a pre-made meal for that many people. Because they have it, I believe it was worded on the original approval as transient at 5 gallons per day per person. So that's
For takeaway food,
for a takeaway.
prepackaged takeaway food.
So prepackaged food would be if you went to a wholesaler and brought in prepackaged food. If you prepare meals in the kitchen and package it to sell to me to take to my house, that's not a pre-made meal. That's a pre-made meal for me because I'm buying it, but it's not a prepackaged meal that I bought as a business and brought in to heat up to resell.
but I think importantly here, you just need to come to us with exactly what they're planning to do.
Right.
And we can talk about that. If there are things about that affect septic, well, then you need to consider that when they're dealing with DES, to get that approval. But that's, I see.
Yeah, I think I'm just trying to clarify because the preparation of food, if it's been put into a wrap or a clamshell or something, is no different whether you made it at a kitchen at home or you bought it from someone else, according to what the understanding, the prior, Bob Summers was making stuff on the property back when he owned the store. So assuming something didn't change along that lines, the state's aware of what he was doing, the state was aware of what the Val shops were doing, so the actual preparation on site.
So unfortunately, the rules have changed as of February 1st. That's a big change in the rules. And the last thing I want to point out is that you said you're marketing the apartment as a 1-bedroom now. So if we were to make a condition that had to be a 1-bedroom apartment, then you lose a bedroom. And I would think that the LLC wants to probably look at that. Is it worth losing, going from 300 gallons for the apartment down to 225 for a 1-bedroom apartment, losing 75 gallons, giving it to the store versus keeping a 2-bedroom apartment available
Well, I
in town?
think
That's
the
something.
LLC's pretty much made the decision that in the community's interests, whatever we can do to keep the store operating is best, and functionally speaking, it functions much better as a 1-bedroom.
I don't know if you've been inside the place.
No.
Shall we say the second floor is accessed by a very steep galley kind of stairway, and you can't stand up straight in a lot of the upstairs part. Therefore, it's been used primarily as the bedroom downstairs and maybe an office upstairs.
So if you were successful getting a special exception approved, if one of the conditions was limiting it to a 1-bedroom apartment, that would be okay with the LLC.
I think importantly, you need to meet the requirements of DES. You need a waiver or something.
Well, again, we were under the understanding that we were, and the fact that they got approval.
And you may have it, but we just need to have that to check that. So I think that's the main thing. We don't make those decisions.
No,
That's
no, I understand.
DES's purview, not ours. But I think it's important that we do make sure that, we don't have a situation that would cause some harm to the system for the town, so I think that seems reasonable. But I think, we need to have that, approval from DES, we need to have the site plan that demonstrates that, that you have adequate parking. And then I think just a thorough understanding of what the operation will look like, the hours of operation, what will be done. It doesn't have to be very, super detailed, we just need to generally understand what's going on. It's something that will go into the record, so that if it comes up in the future and there's a change, that we know to go, when you need to come back here and when you don't. Okay.
Okay, stop for a minute. Thank you. Thank you.
So unless there are any other things that need to be brought up by the board, I would look for a motion to continue the hearing. Take a step back. How long do you think you'd need to address the items?
I have no idea how long it would take to deal with DES. That's the question mark. The other
Okay.
parts are easy. DES, I have no idea. Do you, Matt?
You meet once a month?
Sorry?
You meet once a month?
We meet once a month.
And
But we could leave this too until you could come back and we can schedule it at that point and as long as we have it 2 weeks prior, or 2 weeks prior, then we're good.
I just pulled up the application for a restaurant, the licensing, and it says wastewater supply is the establishment using a private septic system for wastewater management. So depending on how they answered that, if they said yes, it says you have to send the approval from for the septic system with the subserve in order to get this.
That's correct.
So if they had it approved today, then I'm assuming that either this was covered or they said, no, it's not private because everybody's, so it's gonna depend on.
No,
how
it's
they-
private. They provided a septic plan with the application.
So my guess is they probably provided the old approval for the prior operation of the store. And this, unfortunately, is a change of use. One, because it's increasing flow in number of seats, and two, even if you did change the flow, it's a change of use based on wastewater characteristic, which is another requirement that came about in February of this year.
Well, we'll find out
Yeah. we'll
if they
take a look
use
at
the
it.
prior approval or not. That will answer that.
And if they didn't, then there should be an approval.
Alright, so I'd look for a motion to continue this hearing until whenever folks are ready, you can let us know.
But let me just have one final comment on the hours of operation. I mean, considering the previous use and the exception use, I don't think there's anybody on this board that expects you to come back with matching business hours, considering what the use would be changed to. So I think all we're all here is sitting thinking that these hours are gonna be extended to some degree. So that's, I think, partially the comments you're hearing is, we just need to know what that degree is.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's an assumption, I'm not speaking for them, but the idea that they didn't anticipate preparing food throughout the day into the evening, that there was a cutoff, but that doesn't mean they didn't wanna still operate the store if they found that traffic warranted being open till 7. Right, so we'll find that out, but they need to find that out themselves, I think, is part of it.
And changes can be made too, but you just have to come back to the board.
Yeah.
So if you find that, you say it's 6 o'clock and that's too restrictive in the future, we certainly can,
But I guess-
hear that again.
And that's what I was looking for, is it's really a dual use, we're not trying to give up the store use, cause it's still gonna be a store. It may not be the same proportionality, no stores, no convenience stores in this modern age can operate the way they used to. And it's prepared food, that's keeping them alive.
So when you talk to your tenant, the things that you should ask them is, and you as the LLC will need to know number of staff that's on site. So if it's 4 people all the time, or if it's
Yeah.
the 2 people and 1 three, it's not the total number of employees, it's how many people will be on staff for
It's
that
two,
day.
actually, but yeah.
So that's important. The next one is the square footage of the store, because that's a separate design number for dry goods store.
Correct,
And then you've got the post office.
correct.
So if it was me, I would look at how can I minimize some uses to maximize what my intended is, which is this number of
In
seats.
the original design, some of the square footage numbers were not correct. Which was an error that hindered us.
Yeah.
So that could be looked at too. But yeah, the post office has one employee, no cafe. So their flow, not based on square footage, it's based on office space employee.
Right.
You know, so that's changed since the original one. So.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we were not aware that there was a new change in February. We were going off what was currently online, and evidently it takes a while to get.
They should be, the new rules should be
issued.
online.
Alright, so is there a motion?
I make a motion to continue.
Does this, do we need to hear what you're saying, Cal, before we do that, or?
Please,
Oh.
if you continue to the next meeting, like, and you put a specific date on it, then we don't need to send out individual notices to all of the abutters again. So I know that you're not exactly sure when you wanna do this, but if you could continue
Why
to
don't
the
we do
next
that?
Yeah,
regular.
why don't we
Yeah,
put it
thank
on
you,
for the
Cal.
next
That's
date? Put it on for the next date and hopefully we'll have answers by then.
Alright. So can I have a motion?
Make a
Wait,
motion.
wait a minute. So are you saying then that you want to schedule a continued hearing for July?
Yes.
What if they're not ready?
We will notify you that we can't do so, and it can be, I assume.
Then we
either
have to
con-
notice
Then we'd have to do
everybody.
the notice.
Okay, yep, okay, thank you.
I make a motion to continue it to the next July meeting. And that's what date is that, July
22nd.
26th.
Alright. Is there a second?
Sorry,
All in favor?
alright,
Aye.
Contrary minded? Alright, well, thanks very much for coming up tonight.
Thank you. Alright, thank you.
Look forward to next meeting.
what's the date? What's
So go back to the approval of the minutes for cases number 2026-2 and this is the 2024-5-2025-3, which is the gas station. And they were both from last month's meeting. Everyone had a chance to look at those?
They were from just the May meeting?
Yeah, they were both in the main meeting.
Okay.
We did both at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
I'd make a motion to approve them as written.
Alright, second,
I'll second then.
all in favor of approval of the minutes in those cases?
Aye.
I abstain.
Aye.
Okay, so, yes, we have. Did you vote, Lisa?
No, I was too busy writing.
You vote to approve?
A vote to approve
Wait,
my
okay,
minutes.
no, wait, we had four, sorry,
We're all set, yeah,
I'm not kind of
Yes.
myself.
that's okay.
Okay, great. I wanna suggest that given the hour, that we, postpone, the meeting regarding the continuation of the bylaw review by the board. Yes.
You have to review it, before you can approve it, it has to be reviewed at it has to be 3 meetings in a row.
Two sequential ones.
Like, yeah, so 2 sequential ones where you review it, and then the third one that you approve it. So if we could just spend 5 minutes, then that would count as
Okay,
the
if
reviewing.
we're gonna, if that's,
If that's okay.
that's, okay.
Do we have updated ones based on the edits we made at our last meeting?
Yes, I emailed those out last week.
Where did we end off?
If you want, we could just do the 5 minutes where I go over what the changes were.
That would be delightful.
Okay. Alright, so the changes that were discussed last time, I changed on page 3, about resignation, instead of having the whole paragraph there, I just changed it to members and alternates shall comply with the Canterbury town officials resignation policy when informing the board of their intent to resign. So that's because we have that whole other policy now, so instead of reinventing the wheel here, it's just refer to that one. And then on page 5, under participation of alternates, I still have the alternate rotation highlighted because we were talking about that may not be necessary. And that you guys would decide at either this meeting or the next one, which can be the final one, to whether or not you need that piece of it.
So it's a question of needed or not.
Yes,
Okay.
yep, so that's just something everybody should think about.
Okay.
I think besides that, it was only minor little bits, grammatical stuff.
I think we talked about moving the approval of the minutes under order of business to the end because we do the hearings first.
Oh, that's right, yes.
Yeah, we always do.
So that makes sense.
Yes, approve minutes, so I'll bring that down to the end. Anything else that people have seen that,
I do have a question for page 10 under public hearings shall commence in the following order.
yes,
If we should add a line in there that the board vote to accept the application as complete before we open it up to the applicant. Because in tonight's meeting, I would have made a motion that it wasn't a complete application. Also, there was, in my opinion, they did not notice the town as an abutter, that's where the leach field is, and it wasn't on the abutters list.
Okay.
They had noticed the town for the gazebo, but not for the leach field, separate lot, directly, it's not a direct abutter, but is a person of interest based on our zoning rules.
so I could put in between number 2 and number 3, so after talking about public notice and before the applicant shall be called to present their application, that the board makes a vote on completeness.
On completeness.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, but we did talk about that last time. There's the whole, there's administratively complete and that's really what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And,
So in response to that, historically, as we've noticed, if someone owned dual or multiple properties that had to do with an application, we sent out one notice. That was just the way it was always has been done, because we're sending out certified mail to noticing abutters. So now you want us to consider sending out certified mail to the same person, whoever that is, whether it's the town or anybody else, multiple times?
In this particular case, it should have been, because it's a separate, and if it's, so the way it's listed in the tax records is the town has listed the gazebo as a separate property owner than the town hall, and the leach field's on the town hall.
Right, I understand that, but so, for instance, if you had a property in Sherwood Forest that was having a presentation and an application, and someone owned property around it in several places,
Then it could be one notice, but the abutters, all their property and tax maps should be listed on the application. So in this particular case, it could have been one notice to the town, but it should have listed both property. It should have listed the tax map and the lot for everything that was owned.
okay,
So in your
Okay.
example, if I owned 5 separate lots in Sherwood Forest and they were all abutting and it somehow impacted me or an abutter, I'd get one notice, but it would list all my property in that notice
okay,
or on the application.
okay.
I just don't wanna find,
No,
Find something
I
to-
know what
someone
you're,
to
I know
approve.
what you're saying, I'm just saying historically.
Yeah.
Somebody got a notice because something was gonna have to do with something, so we'll change that.
So what I was saying is that you know, there's the question of being administratively complete, which I agree with you. It's like, doesn't make too much sense to start a hearing with something that, we don't feel is complete. But it also seems like a burden if the town somehow can't tell an applicant that your application is administratively incomplete prior to a hearing.
That's what we've got with the planning board, honestly, because the planning board votes at the top of their hearing whether or not it's complete.
Yep.
And there's no guarantee that what we in the office think is complete is what they're gonna think is complete. And I mean, we have had clashes with that before, and just more communication has been our solution to try to handle that.
But I guess in this case, like you brought up the example of the site plan, it's like, that's just a box check. I don't know. But I agree with you that, in the larger picture, but I think some things we might be able to improve on. At the higher level, in terms of when the application comes in as being a check. That if we generated a checklist, I don't know if that's feasible or not, but something so that if you don't have something come through without a site plan, when there should have been a site plan.
Yeah, we can make a checklist for the ZBA, just like we have with the planning board. I could copy one of the planning board ones, and is the zoning board, are the land development regulations, is that just for the planning board, or is that for the zoning board as well?
I think it would get too complicated myself. There's just too many items that are listed for planning. And actually, the checklist, in my opinion, would be the actual application, whether it's a special exception or a variance. That is kind of your checklist. That's what you have to answer. And I know it does state that we have to bring, or they should supply a site plan too. Whether it's just a sketch on the tax map or something.
Yeah, that's a good point. We don't need a checklist. We have a checklist.
No, right.
We did have some discussion at one point about a one sheet general instructional sheet to steer people in the right direction, because we found ourselves filling in too many blanks once they were here.
Maybe we could take a look at the application forms themselves just to make sure that they're really clear on those points, but I guess that could be another item. But I agree with the point you made, and if planning board's doing that anyway, also, then we should be consistent.
So it may be that also the variance or special acceptance application should be changed or additional checkbox, because this one says the application must be accompanied by a plot plan, must. So if someone's coming in to add a sign to the store, this the way we have this written, they have to come in with a site plan for a sign, and I don't think that's necessary.
Well, yeah,
So
I'm not 100% sure. You do want to show where that sign is. We spend a lot of time talking about the gas station based on
if it's a
locations of the
remote
sign.
sign, right,
So
so
I think it's not a huge burden to have someone create it doesn't have to be a survey plan, that we're just talking about something that could be going to the record.
So if you read through what is written here, it doesn't have to be a survey, but it's a plot plan which is drawn to scale and it's in sufficient detail to support the statements. And it goes through everything that has to be on it, so it's not I've been on the board, sat on this board before, where people would come in with as you know, with a sketch that you couldn't tell which way it goes up or down.
Right.
And we accepted it, but that's not what is in our application. And unfortunately, how zoning boards and how town may have operated 10 years ago compared to where we are now for everyone looking to appeal and sue everybody, we have to follow what we have unless we change it.
No disagreement. I think we just need to follow. We do need to follow it. It says must, then they must. And so if we as a final check on that before we really go down an hour's path of discussion,
Right.
To check that in the beginning and say, sorry, this is, the board finds this is not complete. Seems like that's what planning board does, and we should do that too.
Yeah.
I don't know what other people think, but that's just two of us talking about this.
Well, we have a position, a land use administrator, and I think that they could I guess it's tough to coach them along to some degree and go through the application while they're there and say, where's your site plan, or you need to answer this question. I think some guidance could be given right then and there.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that could help, with some of the ones that are just tragically missing something.
Yes.
All right, so then maybe I will put it on my to-do list that I'll look at the application that we have. Maybe come up with a checklist that could be helpful. I did come up with an FAQ thing to hand out. I've only had one person to test it out on.
A what?
An FAQ, like a frequently asked questions. With kind of what you should expect at a hearing. And I think it was what you should expect at a hearing, and it was what does the spirit of the ordinance mean? Because those are the two things that people may not know when they walk into the meeting. But I can flesh that out some more too. So if you guys don't mind doing these little administrative meetings after your hearings, then we can just continue to work on it until we have something in place that works for everybody.
Yeah, I think we should.
And the last question I have here is under
Yes.
personal electronic devices, a little confusing the way it's written, because under the first paragraph, it says it's prohibited during public hearing, and then third paragraph or second paragraph down, use of personal devices by board members during other portions of the meeting is allowed but shall be announced. So, with Randy's and Jim's laptop open during the meeting, under this rule, you wouldn't be able to do it.
Right.
So
That's where all my paperwork is.
Yeah,
Well,
I
that's
use
where
it,
I'm
but
going.
I just have the ordinance
Question.
open, that's all.
is this
Yeah.
a town requirement? I didn't find this in the RSA when I looked for it, and I may have missed it.
No, so this is something that has been kind of advised by NHMA because of the situations where you have board members on their phones and they may be chatting with each other out of line, which is like not, or they could be reading out something and then it doesn't make it into the minutes, like what they read, because it's supposed to be, especially for the ZBA, it's supposed to be like only the evidence that the applicant brings forward.
Yeah.
So if you have somebody looking things up during the meeting, it should be recorded. Well, so that's gonna be up to you guys, because you're right, it's not an RSA thing, so this is just, do you want it to be fully prohibited, or do you want it to be,
Yeah, I think we need to
Do you
just
want to
make
do-
clarity of what you can and can't do. I mean, for me, I use it just so I can have the ordinance in front of me.
Yeah.
And not have a lot of paper and
Okay.
keep printing it out over and over again.
Right.
So for that kind of a use, to me, I think we should allow it, but
I'm all for allowing it, because, I mean, I didn't bring mine tonight because of this rule, but I would rather have the ordinances on my iPad or laptop, so if I have a question, I can search for a word and find it versus going through all the pages.
Yeah. For us to announce that, at the beginning that, communication to other board members or externally to
Yeah.
acquire additional information is prohibited.
Yeah.
You can only use them to view documents that have been provided, or the ordinance, something like that, I think would be hopefully covered.
And it would cut down the number of trees we have to cut down.
Yep.
So,
You can have papers.
You bet.
Okay, great.
Yellow.
So I've definitely taken up more than 5 minutes. Do you have anything else that you wanna go through?
that's all I have.
Okay, so again, if anybody is reading it and they see anything else that they have questions on or wanna change, Webb is,
Yeah, I just have a question. It's on page 8, the scheduling of hearings,
yes. Okay,
where I believe the bottom line says that the applicant can waive either 4B and 4C.
yes,
We've gone through, and again, I've been doing this too many years. I guess it states that you have to hear the application within 30 days once the application has been received or at the town office. We have a schedule, we meet once a month, and here's our deadline. We've never had to hold a second meeting if somebody should say, bring an application in, say, oh, I don't know, the 10th day of the month. That means we would have to reschedule ourselves to try and get another meeting. I think once a month is tough enough for everybody to get together.
So, the reason I put that part about the waiving is that, essentially, everybody is waiving it because they are going with our schedule.
Okay.
But the RSA does say that we have to meet that 30 and 90-day deadline. So, maybe I could change the language to say, like by default, we are doing our regularly monthly scheduled meeting, and if somebody has a problem with that, then they can.
I think that would work. I think that would work better. I mean, I don't know how, a person coming in could waive something right off the bat. That's all, that was my question, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. All right, I can change that.
Super.
Okay,
Okay, is there any other,
all right.
any other business? Let's adjourn.
Can't think of any.
Okay, well, I guess we're adjourned then.
Need a motion to do that?
I did ask for one, but that was probably bum motion.
Oh, I guess I do have one question. Zoom, can I vote
Not on this, I
or
don't.
not?
Yes,
Oh, you can?
yes, so,
On Zoom, I can vote. As long as there's a quorum
In the room.
yes,
No.
in the
Okay, so
room.
that's what it means, and it just doesn't count towards making a quorum.
exactly. So in order to begin the meeting, at the very start of the meeting, there has to be a quorum of people within the room.
Right.
So, if, and this was the quorum math I was trying to do earlier today when I found out Sean wasn't coming. Like if it was just, let's see, if it was just you and you and you who were here in the room, and then Webb on the screen, that would have been okay, because that would have been a quorum, that would have been 3 people. Lisa would have had to be sat as a full member, but like that would be 3 people in the room and then 1 person virtual remote. And then, but then when it comes to the hearing part of it, that's not 91A, that's just a plain quorum for voting. And at that point, as long as the person who's remote can hear and see everything and we can hear and see them, so it's like good quality communication, then Webb can vote. So in that case where, like today, if it had just been you 3 and then Lisa had to recuse herself for the hearing part of it, that would have been okay that Webb is voting remotely.
Okay.
It's weird, but
That makes sense.
yeah.
I was just thinking though, that well, from the discussion we had earlier, that it was only dealing with the hearing part, but it applies to the entire.
It implies the entire meeting.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
I now make a motion to adjourn.
all right, second.
Sorry about that.
All in favor? All right. Okay, have a good night.